The difference between data and content is context. If I give you the number 12, it's easy to process the number 12 as a piece of data. It goes from system to system to system, and it has no context to it. If I asked you, is 12 good or bad? You wouldn't know. If I said it's $12 for a pencil, you might think that's exorbitant, but if I said it's $12 for a pair of really nice shoes, you would think it's a bargain. So that becomes content when you have the context for what does 12 mean. Content is treated different from data because it's more nuanced. It's not as easy to process. So you can move data around between systems and just pass values through. So if something is 3 feet long, then the number 3 just goes through, and the label on the value would be feet, but 3 is 3 is 3. It doesn't matter which language it's in, it doesn't matter which location it's in, but as soon as you start to have content, you have differences, for example, when you translate. So when you translate, you have different grammatical constructions in each language. So you can't say, we're just going to take this word and make it a variable, and it will always be the adjective towards that noun, because in another language that may come in another place. The language may not have a word for that. You might have to use a completely different sentence structure. So you have to honor the fact that content is a lot harder to process. It's not as simple as data. It has way more complexity and way more nuance, and content is what your people, your customers, your viewers, your readers, that's how they make sense out of the information that you give them. So if they look at the number 3, they can understand that piece of data when they have all the content around it. But if the content around it doesn't make sense, then the number 3 doesn't make sense. So if they need to understand your product or service, you want everything to make sense. And so that's why you have to treat content differently than data. Using product content as an example, here's how you would process it differently. So product information is generally managed in something called a PIM, a product information management system. So a PIM is like a database. So if you were looking at a PIM to enter content into it, it has tables and columns. It's in a table, so there are rows and columns, and it looks like an Excel spreadsheet, but tarted up a little bit. And you can enter information about that product, but at the PIM level, the cell is the lowest common denominator. So you cannot put variables into a cell. So if you need to have information about 20 different products, you either have to use that cell as is in all the 20 different products, or you have to copy and paste 19 times. And we know that this is how we used to do it before they had specialized systems to treat content. So if you want to treat your product content in a way that allows you to vary the information to make it specific to the product. So if you think about cars and how you have a 3 series, 5 series, and 7 series, and it says, if you have the 3 series car, here's where this happens, and here's where the lever is. If you have the 5 series car, here's where the lever is. If you have the 7 series car, here's where it is. You shouldn't have to do that. You should be able to have 3 outputs. So in a PIM, unless you had 3 different content blocks, or you did it in some way that allows you to roll up some generic sentences, you're kind of stuck. So what you want is a component content management system where you can have a variable that says in the whatever series, as a phrase, as a variable, and then you have different pieces of content that match it up at processing time. And this allows you way more flexibility and way more power to be able to deliver the right content to the right people on the right platform. And now that we're delivering to multiple channels, it's even more important, because it's not even taking this content and saying, okay, we have 3 series, so we're going to cut and paste this twice. Now we're going to have 3 series, 3 products where it's on the web, and 3 products where it's on mobile, and 3 products where it's on tablet, and 3 products where it's on wearables, and 3 products where it's in Google Glass or whatever. So we have to start thinking about all these different channels that we deliver into, and we don't want to be replicating the content. We want it mastered in one place. When you fix it, it's in one place, it's transcluded to where it needs to go, and you can get it down to a very granular level, and then you're really leveraging the power of technology, and you're not using your people as fancy cut and pasters. Transclusion is a concept that allows you to have a piece of content in one place and have it appear to be in many places. We transclude all the time. We've been transcluding for 20 years in help authoring tools, HATs. Transclusion was quite popular to be able to take what they call snippets today and to put them in different places, and then you fix it in one place and it shows up everywhere else. I was doing it 25 years ago in FrameMaker, where you would have something called a variable, and so that's an example of transclusion. It happens all the time in web content management systems to a limited extent. And it happens in component content management systems. That's the thing about component content management systems is link management and all the transclusions you can do, and how you can do them down to a very granular level so that you really can leverage the power of your content without having to do any cutting and pasting or a lot of manual work that isn't necessary. It's a very powerful tool.